Good morning, basketball world. This is the Around the Association podcast, and I'm Danny Thompson bringing it to you live on Thursday morning. This is the Thursday morning edition, recapping everything you missed in the NBA from Wednesday night and talk about the 6 games that's going to happen for you on Thursday around the NBA. Follow me on Twitter before we get into the show at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as aroundtheassociation.com. Follow us on Facebook, Around the Association, the podcast, or Around the Association Radio, as well as subscribe to the podcast on places like Spreaker, now Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Podcast Addict, Google Podcast. Anywhere a podcast can be found, you can find this podcast. So the NBA last night was a busy night in the NBA, and let's get to what you missed last night. The big story of the night last night was probably the game early on ESPN last night with the unusual 7:30 tip-off time. You're going to see a lot of this, especially on Wednesday nights in the NBA, especially on national TV. What the NBA is doing this year is they're trying to get more people to watch the late West Coast games. So they're starting games at 7:30 on Wednesday nights a lot of times for the rest of the season, and also starting the West Coast games at 10:30. So it's a little bit different for most folks because, you have a chance to watch games for 8 at 10:30. 7:30 and 10 was kind of interesting because when you get home from work, you have basketball on as soon as you get there. So the first 7:30 game of the season that happened last night was one of the best 7:30 games of the season. The Houston Rockets took on the LA Clippers last night in Houston. An early start for Houston, 6:30 Central Time, and it seemed like Russell Westbrook also didn't get the memo either. Westbrook committed 4 fouls in the first half, limiting him to 8 minutes, and he finished with 15 minutes of the game. But even without Russell Westbrook, also, with Eric Gordon having surgery being out for the next couple weeks, and the Rockets are kind of shorthanded, James Harden scored 47 points last night. 47 points being guarded by one of the best defenders in the NBA, Patrick Beverley, and his 47 was enough to lead the Houston Rockets over the LA Clippers 102-93 at home at Toyota Center on Wednesday night. Harden did everything he could last night to give the Rockets the victory. The Rockets are now 8-3 on the season. Harden, like I said, finished with 47 points and 7 assists, 6 rebounds. But Harden, with 12 of 26 from the floor, got to the line 17 times and knocked down 7 of his 13 three-point attempts. It was James Harden doing everything that James Harden does best. Like I said, Russell Westbrook did finish with 17 points in the 29 minutes he played, but spent the majority of the first half in foul trouble because he had 4 fouls in the first half, which is kind of uncharacteristic from Westbrook. The Rockets also got 12 points and 20 rebounds for Clint Capella in the game, but this was, like I said, it was all about James Harden doing everything he could, and really it was a playoff type atmosphere. Harden pretty much fouled out Pat Beverley late in the fourth quarter, and once he did that, Harden knocked down a couple of free throws. Grabbed a huge rebound and knocked a 3-pointer down the stretch to pretty much stretch the lead out completely. Pat Beverley was getting a technical foul. Doc Rivers was ejected in the fourth quarter. This was a lot to take in. Kawhi Leonard did play last night. There was no Paul George for the Clippers last night. Kawhi had 26 points and 12 rebounds and 7 assists. Lou Williams had 20 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. For the Clippers. Clippers are now 7-4 in the season. Rockets are now 8-3, and they're playing some really, really good basketball. But this was all about the Rockets defense and what they did to pretty much what they did was they let Kawhi Leonard and Lou Williams do most of the damage offensively, and nobody else did much of anything. Only one other Clipper was in double figures last night, and that was JaMychal Green, who had 14 points last night. Out in Minnesota, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 7-4 in the season. Andrew Wiggins had another 30-point game last night. Wiggins had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists as the Timberwolves took care of the Spurs last night, 129-114 out in Minneapolis. And Andrew Wiggins is looking like the max player that everybody's been waiting to see. Wiggins has, I think he shot 12 of 23 last night and he was just doing it on both sides of the floor, knocking down threes, playing the defense they were looking for. This is the breakout Andrew Wiggins we were waiting to see. Karl Anthony Towns had 28 points and 11 rebounds, giving the dynamic duo in Minnesota another 25-point game piece. It's the third straight game where those two guys have knocked down 25 points or more in the NBA, and this duo is the only duo in the league. I mean, the only duo that's even more than Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum to average more than 25 points a game on the season. Wiggins, like I said, hit a huge 3-point into the third quarter to give the give the Timberwolves their biggest lead of the night at 11. And in the fourth quarter, the Timberwolves pretty much just stretched the lead out the rest of the game. The Spurs, who were hit with a potential trade rumor, and I'll get to that in a second, with DeMar DeRozan had 27 points in the game for him. LaMarcus Aldridge had 23 points. And really, those two guys shot the ball pretty well. They combined for 22 for 34 from the floor. But the Spurs struggled from the three-point line, hitting 3 of their 17 three-pointers on the night. Speaking of trade rumors, DeMar DeRozan was there was word that broke out from the Ringer yesterday from Kevin O'Connor that the Orlando Magic were interested in potentially acquiring the multiple-time All-Star and scoring machine for the San Antonio Spurs, because the Magic have had issues scoring the basketball and have arguably the worst offense in the NBA. They potentially could do that. Now, the potential trade rumor coming back, it wasn't much of the story for the break of who was be coming back. The Magic do have some interesting young pieces that they can throw back in the deal. Maybe Aaron Gordon, if they decide to do that. I don't see them trading Jonathan Isaac or Nikola Vucevic, and I really don't see them the Spurs taking on Markelle Fultz, because their main issue in San Antonio is that they have a lot of guards and guys who need to play in the backcourt. I don't see the Spurs trying to get any of the backcourt guys, and I don't see the Magic trading guys like Isaac or Vucevic. So it'll be interesting to see how further that goes. Speaking of the Magic had the worst offense in the NBA for 3.5 quarters. They pretty much could not get anything done offensively in a tight struggle fest against the Philadelphia 76ers, who did not have Joel Embiid. Enter the fourth quarter, the Magic took over the fourth quarter and took care of business at home. 112-97 over the Philadelphia 76ers. Nikola Vucevic had 25 points. The Magic had 7 guys in double figures last night. Everybody contributed. The Magic went 13-24 in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Sixers in the final 12 minutes by a score of 32-15. This was the Magic team that we've expected to see all season. Not to mention, they kept the Sixers under 100 points, which is what the Magic have been doing to teams all season. The offense finally got it together. The fourth quarter was huge. Like I said, the Magic finished 13-24 in the fourth quarter. They also held the Sixers to 6 of 19 shooting, with also causing 7 turnovers. Aaron Gordon had 18 points and 13 rebounds for the Magic. DJ Augustine had 12 points and assists off the bench. It was really all about what the Sixers did, the Magic did defensively in the fourth quarter. Josh Richardson had 19 points, and Ben Simmons had a pretty good all-around night, 19 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists for him. But like I said, the Magic had huge games from everybody, 7 guys in double figures. The only starter for the Magic that did not get double figures, ironically, was Markelle Fultz, and he had 8 points in the game for the Magic. Magic are 4-7. Sixers are now 7-4. Around the rest of the association, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Charlotte Hornets played one of the most entertaining games of the night. And Ja Morant's homecoming back to Charlotte. Morant hit a huge layup with 0.7 of a second left to give the Grizzlies a 119-117 victory over the Hornets. Morant had a huge game in his return home, 23 points and 11 assists from him last night. He pretty much took control of the game. Hornets were up by 12. Morant led the charge to bring the team back, and like I said, he finished off for the layup. Terry Rozier had career-high 33 points for the Magic, and Devontae Graham, in the place of the injured Dwayne Bacon, made his first NBA start, 19 points and 4 assists. Malik Monk had 20 points and 8 rebounds and 5 assists off the bench. But really, the big story of the game was Ja Morant. It wasn't more than just the scoring. He had 11 assists, got guys like Jonas Valanciunas involved. He had 18 points and 13 rebounds. Morant controlled the fourth quarter. Charlotte did everything they could to try to keep the lead. Even Graham hit a huge three with 22 seconds left. But like I said, Morant's ability to play one-on-one ended the game for the Grizzlies, who are now 4-7. Hornets also 4-7. In Boston's won their 9th straight game of the season, and probably the highest scoring game of the night, 140-133 over the Washington Wizards. Kemba Walker led a balanced attack, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Jason Tatum, after having a 1 of 18 performance the other night, he ended up with 23 points. The Celtics had so many guys in double figures last night. Well, we scored 140 points. You got a ton of guys in double figures last night. They ended up with 10 guys with double figures, and Carson Edwards had career high 18 points off the bench for for Boston. Washington was led by Bradley Beal, who had 44 points, and another game where Beal has a humongous point total, and they fell for short. Wizards are still struggling and spinning their heels. The Celtics had once again 9-1. Wizards fall to 2-7. And Isaiah Thomas, of course, returned to Boston last night, 18 points for the Wizards. Out in LA, the Los Angeles Lakers took care of the shorthanded Golden State Warriors by a score of 120-94. The Lakers got a contribution from a lot of different guys. They didn't have Anthony Davis, who sat with a sore shoulder. They really didn't need him. LeBron James had 23 points and 12 assists. In the three quarters, he did play. Kyle Kuzma did play in the back-to-back. He started in the place of Davis. He finished the game with a grand total of 22 points and 5 rebounds in his first start of the season. JaVale McGee had 18 points and 17 rebounds. This was a dominating performance for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Golden State Warriors were led by D'Angelo Russell at 21 points and 8 assists. But once again, like I said, this wasn't much of a contest. Lakers pretty much led this game from start to finish. The Warriors had a small little lead in the beginning of the game, but really the Lakers just dominated offensively. The Lakers also, they spread the ball perfectly. 31 assists last night. Like I said, they're on back-to-back. And they had 39 the night before. So they had 70 assists in the last 2 nights. It was all about pretty much getting everybody involved. And what broke the game open was LeBron James giving pretty much starting a 12 run in the first quarter that pretty much buried the Warriors, where he scored 6 points and also had a huge alley-oop pass to JaVale McGee. Lakers shot 70% in the first quarter and pretty much blew the doors off the Warriors, who are now at NBA Warriors 2-10. Final game of the night was out in Portland, and the Portland Trail Blazers could not seem to find it at home last night. The Raptors took care of business on the road and also took care of the back-to-back as well, too. 114-106 over the Blazers last night. Pascal Siakam, 36 points. Fred VanVleet scored 30. The big story of this game was the Raptors held Damian Lillard, one of the NBA's second leading scorer, to a grand total of 9 points. So for those keeping track at home, on this road trip, the Raptors have held LeBron James to 12 points, Kawhi Leonard to 11, Damian Lillard to 9. The Raptors defense is coming full circle and is looking like the same defense that won them the championship last year. Rodney Hood did lead the Blazers with 25 points. And CJ McCollum had 19 in the game, but this was all about the Raptors defense and Pascal Siakam's performance in the fourth quarter. Siakam scored 13 of his 36 in the fourth quarter. And like I said, it was all about the defense shutting down one of the NBA's best players in the league. Lillard finished the game with a grand total of 2 of 12 from the floor. He was a negative 13 in 36 minutes he played on the floor. Raptors are now 8-3. They were so impressive in this road trip. On the road trip, they ended up beating the Raptors ended up winning the three of the huge games of this road trip where they beat sorry about this, getting caught in the throat. They beat the Lakers. They struggled against the Clippers, but like I said, they also beat they won last night. So they won some huge games in a row on this road trip. And like I say, even with the Clippers game, they held Kawhi Leonard, their old buddy, to 12 points in that game too. So before we get into the Thursday games, the stud of the night last night in the NBA last night, you have to give it to James Harden, the 47 points. But really, when you have one of the NBA's best defenders on you the entire night, you drop 47 points at home when your go-to guy, Russell Westbrook, your tag team partner, struggles shooting, but is in foul trouble most of the night. You had to carry the offense. James Harden did everything with the 47 points. Also, guys that were honorable mention, Andrew Wiggins had his 30 points in the game last night, and Nikola Vucevic's 25 and 12 points also was a stud of the night candidate as well too. So let's get to Thursday, and the big story, the big game Thursday night is the return of Kristaps Porzingis to New York. The Dallas Mavericks take on the New York Knicks on TNT, 8 o'clock. This is the 8 o'clock game tonight, so it's the 8 and 10:30 games. Porzingis comes home. The first time he's played in Madison Square Garden since the trade. The Knicks are falling apart, and Porzingis probably arguably had one of his worst games of his career in Boston on Monday night. This should be real fun, entertaining television. It's something you might be in front of your TV for on tonight. Early game is a 6 p.m. tip in Cleveland. The Heat, who are 7-3, take on the 4-6 Cleveland Cavaliers. 6 o'clock tip-off time. Remember that. The Heat are coming in, having a very good defensive performance the other night in their victory at home. The Cavs are still struggling from scoring in the backcourt, but they do have one of the best dynamic duos in the front court in Tristan Thompson and All-Star Kevin Love. Bulls and Bucks. Bulls come into this game after Kobe White's huge fourth quarter. We hit 7 3-pointers against the Bucks team that just needs to figure out how to keep a lead. The Bucks have blown multiple leads where they've been having double-digit leads at some point in the game, and teams have come back for them. The Bucks need to hold this one at home. Lakers, Clippers, and Pelicans are the back-to-back for the Clippers. Not sure Paul George is going to be in the lineup. They've been teasing George's return. He's just not ready just yet. I don't think we see him tonight on the second of a back-to-back. Clippers should cruise this game. Pelicans will still be without Lonzo Ball, and we're not sure about Brandon Ingram's availability for the game. If he's not available, this could mean trouble for the Pelicans at home. Pelicans 2-8. Hawks and Suns. This game should be an up and down affair. The Suns have somehow learned how to beat teams at home. They couldn't hold on to the Lakers the other night, but they have had some very, very good home wins this season, including Brooklyn. They've beaten the Clippers at home. They've beaten Philadelphia at home. The Hawks come in with Trae Young after scoring 45 points the other night against the Denver Nuggets, beating them on the road. This could be another huge knot in the Hawks' belt. The Suns and Ricky Rubio have to figure a way to keep Trae Young from scoring almost 40 points again tonight. Final game on the schedule tonight, the Nuggets and Nets will play at 10:30 on TNT. It is the late game. The Nets are coming in hurting. No Karis LeVert in the lineup again tonight. We're not sure when he'll be back. The Nuggets are at home reeling. They did not beat the Atlanta Hawks the other night, but even though they are 7-3, this could be a game where Kyrie Irving could explode. This should be up and down affair because this is in the high altitude the Nuggets like to run, and the Nets are just having issues on the defensive side of the ball, but this could be a big scoring game for Kyrie Irving. So before we check out of here, follow me on Twitter at DannyDANNY, the number 3 Thompson on Twitter. Follow Around the Association on the website for the latest news around the NBA, as well as Around the Association's Facebook page as well. Subscribe to the podcast everywhere you can find podcasts: iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict. Any place you have a podcast, that you listen to a podcast, download it. It's free and pass it on to your friends. So, like I said, we'll check in with you guys tomorrow. Like I said, to recap everything in the NBA on a wonderful Thursday night. Like I said, we'll catch you guys tomorrow for Around the Associated podcast. Peace.